Cricbuzz is where the buzz is. Indian social media is buzzing with lots of chatter on India's provisional World Cup squad for 2023. Today is also Teachers' Day, and here I am, like a well-behaved front bench student, to learn a lot from our experts who are teachers in their own right. Mr. Zaheer Khan is here, and Mr. Bhattacharjya is here. Sir, happy Teachers' Day, sir. I promise to behave like a good student, well-behaved. But I have a lot of questions.
Only time will say that.
He's a tough teacher. He's a tough teacher.
He's a tough teacher.
I
Especially
think
when
you
he
had
had
academics in the family, right? You have a family of academics.
Yeah. Mum was a teacher, yes.
Yes.
You see, you guys who are watching at home and I, we're all together because the only gyan that's coming our way is from these two. As I said, it's Teachers' Day. So happy Teachers' Day to all the teachers out there who are watching us. Let's start with the India World Cup squad. Mr. Khan, do you want to talk about whether your neighbor has done a good job or not?
Well, see, you go to back whatever the score
Yes.
is there, right? You know, the Indian team you're talking about, World Cup you're talking about. So you got to have that faith in the people who are actually there, the decision makers, right? And it was nice to see that the thought process was out there. They communicated with that. They've been very transparent with how they're looking at it. Batting has certainly given that importance, and that's why you're seeing Aksar and Shardul there. You know, that number 8 spot to add that extra batting cushion is what the thought process is. That gives Rohit, Shubman, Virat, you know, that freedom to go hard at the top. So that has been the thought process which they've been talking about, and this squad is just a reflection of that. You know, you pretty much know what kind of composition you'll see of that playing 11 come World Cup. And what Rohit was also very vocal about was the fact that all the 15 will be in consideration right throughout the tournament. You know, so those are the aspects which you look at, the tactical side, and the options. I'm sure they have thought about, discussed, and hence these 15 which are in front of you.
Seems like it is along expected lines. There would have been a debate about one or two, but largely it's on expected lines.
Yeah, it's on expected lines, absolutely on expected lines. And as Zach said, this is the first time that we've had this much clarity much before a World Cup, saying this is the direction we are taking. They've communicated well. And I think I remember Dravid saying when he was not a part of the setup, saying that it's important that people know what is happening, what the selectors are thinking. And I think that all they've done a very good job of selector, coach, that this is why we are picking, this is who we believe. These were the three. Rishabh Pant, we thought in the middle order, Rishabh Pant, these three players, KL Rahul, and both of them got injured, Shreyas Iyer. But if you have to look at it, they made their choices because they had to. Yeah. If you want to look at it, I'm just looking at it and saying, what are the things who are the 4 that may or may not play? What are the positions that are in question now? So if you look at it now, if you see their first choice team from whatever it seems, they want to play Shardul at 8. Okay. That means one of Shami or Shiraj misses out.
Yep.
One of KL Rahul or Ishan Kishan, one of them play, both of them don't play. Okay. One of Aksar or Shardul play, depending on the surface, and one of Surya Kumar or Shreyas play.
Yeah.
The thing about it is, Surya Kumar cannot come in from anyone else other than Shreyas, because anything else changes the dynamics of the team. Yeah. And that is the only thing that you have, that batters you'll have to back for a while. You can't change batters very fast. So your only problem is going to be the day you hit a team with a lot of left-handers in the top 6. So if you talk about, say, England, you have David Mallon, you have Ben Stokes, or you have Australia, you have Head, Warner.
Yep.
If you hit teams, or Bangladesh, which have Shanto, they'll have Shakib, lots of left-handers. If you hit a team with a lot of left-handers and your leggies, your sort of left-arm bowlers are not doing well, who do you bring in? So that's something. Now, obviously nobody wants to choose 2 left-arm spinners who are very alike to each other, but they just didn't find another quality off-spinning all-rounder. Perhaps I think Washington Sundar may have been injured. Perhaps they feel that 10 overs may be too much for Washington Sundar to bowl. That's why Aksar is in. But otherwise, they would have thought long and hard, saying Ravindra Jadeja and Akshar Patel, for them, actually perform the same role. Yeah. So if you had to, you'd want a bit more variety there. But what was their choice? Their only option then was to go back to Ashwin, which they've said that that's a direction they don't want to look at right now. Like Ashwin, Arshdeep, they've also been very clear that we are not looking in this direction right now.
Let's take it bit by bit. Rahul and Ishan can only one of them can play if KL Rahul can keep. We don't know if KL Rahul can keep.
Well, KL Rahul has been communicated with that, right? I think the fact that they've waited for so long, making sure that he's fit and available for selection, but the role was defined. I think what's one thing you have to give it to the management right now. They've been very clear.
Yeah.
Rahul mentioned that fact, right? Like, KL, Rishabh Pant are going to be your those keeping options which they are looking at. Obviously, Ishan Kishan gives them that flexibility when you're talking about the 15-member squad. You don't have the luxury of having 17 or 18. If 17 or 18 were to be picked for the World Cup, the situation would have been completely different. But you don't have that luxury. So you have to think of the duration of the tournament. What are your options? How are you going to fit them in tactically? And looking at the length of the tournament, you have some niggle which you have to take care of with some player. Then you can't just have him sit out. That's why that wicket keeper slot becomes a crucial slot. So you're just talking about specific wicket keeping slot here, which was off the debate. And Ishan Kishan gives you that freedom right now, of maybe doubling up as an opener backup and wicketkeeper backup, having proved now with the middle order innings, so you have that luxury as well right now. So it just covers all the bases well, and then you have Shreyas, who is coming off injury, but also Surya is someone who has been playing regularly. So at some stage, if you feel that okay, Shreyas still needs bit more time, you can always field Surya in that playing 11. So all those options are taken into consideration, and the communication was done accordingly with the players, with the fans, with everyone, which just kind of eases out that anxiety, I would say, with the players also, that they know, okay, this is how the management is looking at my role, and this is what I'm supposed to do to prepare myself for the World Cup.
Fans, I suppose, would be justified with the right intent, wondering or worrying that KL Rahul, and nothing against him, he's got the numbers to prove his credentials. KL Rahul has been brought into the squad without having seen him in action after recovering from the injury. And I suppose it's got to be Dravid and Rohit Sharma's call, and they're well within their rights to back a man that they believe will do well.
Well, this is a provisional squad, so that advantage is there. It also achieves two things, right? If you've been communicating with KL Rahul with that regard, you've given him enough time. You've not rushed him back into playing cricket. Once he's cleared, which was again communicated before the Asia Cup, that he'll be missing the first 2 games, but then he'll be available for the rest of it. So there is still time. I think if things are on track, then they will continue with what has been decided, what has been planned. But if a pivot is required, then I think they're ready for that also. So that is the reason you've seen Sanju Samson being reserve here for the Asia Cup. So I'm sure those things are communicated with Sanju Samson as well. That if KL is not going to be, if there is any further setback in KL's recovery to full fitness and coming back to match fitness, then you have that option of Sanju Samson, who is ready, and you are keeping him with the team to give him that confidence as well. So I think so far all the boxes when you're looking at from outside is ticked nicely, I feel.
The reason there's so much debate around this 15 is because it's only a 15-member squad. Now, if you look at the FIFA World Cup or the IPL, Joy, you've watched and observed world sport and leagues, how leagues run as well. There are more members in a squad. This is one-day cricket we're talking about. In the group stage, 9 matches, that's 450 overs of fielding. In the IPL, you're looking at least 14 matches, 16 matches possibly. That's, I don't know how many overs, 320 overs of fielding. Here is 450 overs of fielding. So why not a 17-member squad?
Actually, if you're giving the team the thing that they'll reach the IPL final, you're giving them 16 matches. So then you should give the team here also reaching the final, which makes you 11.
11, 9 plus 2.
So 550 overs of fielding. So look, I actually believe that this stage is ready for you to have 17-member squads. I really believe the size of the World Cup now, when you have to play 9 matches over a month, I believe that a larger squad is important, because if you're giving 20 to 23 players to an IPL team, you should give 16, 17 out here. I mean, I'll at 16 also, I'll allow, I'd say even 16 would be, I'd be happier with than 15, because 15 basically gives you backups in only certain positions. And therefore you need multi-talented players. So while Ishan, why is he so useful? Because he's also a backup for an opener.
Yeah.
He's giving you backup in more than one place, And I think those are the kind of things that are there. And the only problem there is that you have a situation where I think you definitely need 17-member squads now, and God knows the ICC can afford it. But given the current situation that we have now with this squad, why do they announce squads so early? The reason they do it is a very prosaic reason. Because the ICC machinery will now be making the brochures, they'll be putting stuff out. So all the machinery into taking headshots, mug shots, putting things together, all that will start from now. And that's the reason they do it early. I believe it's a good thing, because at least the players are out of their attention. It finishes it off. And teams are saying that barring injury or something radical happening, this is my team.
Zaheer, should it be 17?
I mean, it doesn't matter, right? If you have 15, now you're dealing with 15, you're adjusting, you're thinking like that, and you are adapting to it. 17 is definitely going to give you that luxury.
Yeah.
And I completely agree that, when the length of the tournament is so long, and you're talking about, 9, this format is actually 9 matches.
Yep.
So you can have an extended squad or have that provision. Which gives you that freedom that, okay, maybe if any of the teams want to carry with 17 players the tournament, they can, so that option can rest with the team.
Right, we do have an Asia Cup game to talk about. Afghanistan versus Sri Lanka to be played at Lahore, and I've just been told Sri Lanka have won the toss and opted to bat first. Now, this game will be watched very, very closely by fans from both teams. Bangladesh have, of course, qualified, so have India and Pakistan. One more spot up for grabs in the Super Fours. Explain to us the scenario, Joy.
It's a very simple scenario. What Bangladesh have managed to do by that very comprehensive win up against Afghanistan is they put themselves in definitely. Now, there are basically 3 scenarios that can happen. One is if Sri Lanka wins, Sri Lanka is through. There's no question at all.
Yep.
Secondly, if Sri Lanka loses by a narrow margin, then basically Sri Lanka still goes through, because all teams are on the same number of points, but Sri Lanka and Bangladesh go through.
Yeah.
Yeah. In this condition, in the third scenario, where you have is if Sri Lanka loses very badly, that is the only case where Afghanistan then goes ahead in terms of run rate, and then Afghanistan and Bangladesh qualify. That's the least likely scenario, because it requires quite a big margin of victory. So that's the margin that you need. So if they bat first, Sri Lanka is batting first, we know. The margin of victory has to be 73 plus balls they have to win in. So that means they have to be chased down by Afghanistan in 38 overs. So that's this kind of scenario I have. And it's going to be really difficult. Even if 150 scores, they have to finish it off in 35 overs.
Looks like a tricky one. Well, it's good to have the scenario in front of you, right, Zaheer bhai? You know what's in store, and you got to do what you got to do, because at least your fate is in your hands and not some other result from an Afghanistan point of view.
Yeah, so you would have to see now how Afghanistan is thinking about it, isn't it? So the scenario is out there for everyone to know. You have to, if you have to go to that next round, then you know that this is your last chance. So for Afghanistan, I think the net run rate is very bad at this stage, and they've not been playing the kind of cricket which they should be playing at this level. They've just fallen back a little bit, which is a little disappointing. The team has got a lot of potential, and they've been on the upward curve. Every Asia Cup tournament you've seen, they've been able to possess that threat to the opposition. Which was not seen in this particular tournament, which is a little disappointing from on their part. So this is the chance for them. I think the intent has to be seen. The result doesn't matter, but you got to go out there with that intent that, okay, we can make this happen. So Sri Lanka is batting first. You know that you have to restrict them for around, say, 250 is a realistic target to have, and if you are able to do that, then you have to give it all, and it's not a very unreasonable scenario when you're looking at 250 runs if you restrict Sri Lanka in. which gives you
36 overs,
36 overs,
36 and a half overs you have to do it in.
which is possible. So I think that's their best scenario. 250, anything under 250, I think Afghanistan will fancy their chances to put Sri Lanka under pressure.
They'd be better off if they have to play fewer overs to get a certain number.
No, you're absolutely right. In fact, that's what I was saying. That in fact, how does Sri Lanka has really emerged as a fantastic T20 side, first among associate nations and then even among top nations. So if you're in that kind of a scenario, you have that kind of a team. I think this Afghanistan team will relish saying that, okay, go down all guns blazing. Yep. We have 40 overs to finish it and 35 overs to finish it, and let's go and blast it. People like Rashid Khan also. I mean, we are talking about him as a batsman, and we often say that why is he not batting up front? Because he does not discriminate between balls. He goes after everything, which works in T20 cricket. But when you have, say, 10, 12 overs to spare, you need somebody in the crease who, thinks a bit and bats. This situation is actually tailor-made for somebody like him.
It's expected to be a Pata wicket, as they say, 300 plus on the cards is what's being talked about. No changes for either teams. Afghanistan were expected to make some change. Fazal Farooqi looked a bit lost in that last game. There wasn't much help. This is the 11. Zach, would you have made any changes, or would you go with this?
I think generally, unless there is forced change, you will not see many changes in any of the teams playing in this tournament. So that's how it goes. Because this round, you're talking about 2 games. Yep. When you pick a team, you are backing them. Just one chance is not going to be enough. You got to give players also a fair chance. So you put your best playing 11 out there, and you back that for both the games. So I'm not surprised with that. I think most of the teams will follow that route.
One would have thought Noor Ahmed maybe.
Ahmed is the only person who slows it up in the middle a bit, but I think they don't have that. What they'd rather do then is they'll probably play Karim Jannat up front, slightly up front, and save somebody to dash up front, maybe take a pinch hit or somebody if the target is really huge. But that's the problem, that it's not that there's another quality batsman sitting out there who's so good who needs to come in immediately. Yeah. Similarly, Fazal Farooqi is their number 1 bowler. I mean, what the best they can do is that their bowling coach will sit with them and say that, okay, you need to bowl better, these are the areas. And the other thing is, if Farooqi gets an early wicket, bowlers are very different. Zach will tell you, once they get wickets, their tail is up, they look very different. Yeah. So he needs that wicket up front, and he's normally given them wickets up front.
Yeah, he's a damn good bowler. He's playing franchise cricket pretty much everywhere. Yeah. Having that experience gives you that responsibility as well when you're looking at Afghanistan team. And he's got the variations. You've seen that he's got those lovely cutters which he bowls. He can get the ball back into the right-hander. To the left-handers, he's not been very consistent. So that's something which the radar needs to be adjusted when you're talking about that. And the kind of bowler he is, he can't be just bowling 6 overs in the game. So that is something which they have to look at. And he himself needs to just take pride in his own bowling and take that leadership role which is required. You always seen with Afghanistan team the spinners have been that dominant factor, but Fazal Farooqi has that ability to take charge when it comes to seam bowling.
When a left arm pacer doesn't have pace, he bowls below 130, when there's not much help or no help at all in the air or off the pitch on a Pata wicket, what is the best way to reduce damage or minimize or limit damage?
Take wickets.
How?
How? As in, you just have to have that intent, right? Yeah. So with the new ball, you've seen yesterday also with the new ball how Casey was troubling Rohit with that brand new cricket ball. So you always have that advantage, as a opening bowler. You need to set that tone for the game. The moment you take wickets, suddenly the batters are on the back foot, thinking cautiously, and that's where you're going to have that inroads. Yeah. So that is something which you have to think, and Farooqi has those variations as well. The fact that he can bring the ball back into the right hander and consistently swing the ball. You don't need much. It's just about then achieving that consistency, having that mindset, and having that approach to bowling, which is gonna give you that confidence also, and it's gonna help the team also when you are able to take that responsibility and provide those breakthroughs consistently.
Sri Lanka, what about them? They are a lot better placed than Afghanistan, and they've gone in unchanged. Joy, they had no reasons to mess around with this combination.
You've won 11 matches in a row. I mean, why do you want to change? Why would you think of changing? I mean, this is a very, very solid team. Yep. And this is a solid team missing Hasaranga, missing, Madhushanka, missing at
Chamira.
least Chamira,
Lahiru
Lahiru
Kumara.
Kumara, missing 4 frontline fast bowlers. It's missing. It's still doing well. And that tells you the kind of depth and ability that they have right now. More importantly, it tells you the belief they have in each other.
Yeah.
That even with this bowling attack, they are getting wickets. Kasun Rajita is getting wickets. Pathirana has just stepped up and taken this game to another level. And here Pathirana, of course, we all talk about Pathirana and say Pathirana is this prospect. But 4 overs bowlers and 10 over bowlers are a different proposition. And he's done amazingly out here.
There's one man that wasn't discussed anywhere on any preview, anywhere on any website, on any cricket show, and he's ensured that he's talked about as a big discussion on our Cricbuzz live pre-show today, Samara Wickrama. He made everyone sit up and take notice. This is what he did in that last game. He played this innings. It was the strike rate wasn't there, but with 77 balls, Zach, he showed that he has the appetite to play longer innings.
They're not chasing many also,
Yeah.
so he had that luxury of taking time. But he started his innings very well. He hit those boundaries through the covers, looked very composed. So those are the things which are going for him. And the middle order player usually has that responsibility of consolidating.
Yeah.
In this format, when you're looking at 50 overs, you might go look to take advantage of that first power play. But after that, that middle phase is so crucial just to keep the scoreboard ticking. Collect it at 4-5 runs per over. That's something which really sets that platform for your power hitters later to come and capitalize on. So looking at that, Sri Lanka and Zaheer both they have that responsibility, and they've been doing very well. The qualifiers also, you're talking about the consistent run which Sri Lankan team had.
Yeah.
A lot of responsibility with regard to the bat in hand was obviously from Pathun Nissanka setting that tone. Later on, these guys have been consolidating.
And his numbers, speak for itself, because if you look at his numbers in 2023, he has been in resurgent form. Take a look at those numbers, Joy.
No, those are absolutely superb numbers. And that tells you 350s batting out there. He gives them that stability that he has. And remember what happened in the match. If you go back to that Bangladesh match, they were chasing, a small total, 150s, 160s, but they were 43 for 3.
Yeah.
At that point in time, it's Nissanka who's given them runs, not there. Karunaratne is dismissed. There was a bit of panic. They would have had a few flutters out there. And then he and Asalanka came together. And what the thing is that Asalanka is a naturally attacking player. So if you have a Samara Wickrama who can hold up one end and play some classical shots, and as I said, his cover drive looked beautiful. Yeah. Lovely looking cover drive, yes. Yeah. So once they got together, they have that resilience also. The other thing you'll see is that if you look at if you look at Sri Lanka over the last 11-12 matches, one thing is not just that they've won big.
Yeah.
Even this one is a big victory, as in they accomplished it comfortably. And that's the one thing that you're seeing with this side. That again, what was our problem with the Indian team yesterday? Not the fact that the Indian team won. Of course, they won very comfortably in the end. But the fact is that an Indian team getting somebody at 144 for 6 normally does not allow their associate country to reach 230.
Yeah.
And I think what Sri Lanka has done very well recently is if they're in those commanding positions, they've taken big wins out of it.
The other pillar of the Sri Lankan middle order, and Joy alluded to it, Charita Asalanka is also growing in reputation. In only 31 matches, look at his numbers, 42 and 90. It's a great fixed deposit to have for the Sri Lankan captain and the coach.
So that's what we are talking about, isn't it? You have Zaheer who is averaging 45, and you have Asalanka who is averaging 42.
Yep.
And those 950s, 100 is something which is a reflection of these numbers.
Yep.
And the consistency which we are talking about. When you are taking responsibility as a batting group, all those pieces of the puzzle need to just fall into place rightly. So the opening stand is something which is important, but after you get that start, the middle overs, the consolidation phase is something which is of utmost importance to any team. If you don't lose wickets at that stage, then it's just going to give you that solid platform to launch around 35, 37 overs. So I think Asalanka has been that important cog in this Sri Lankan batting lineup and their success who's been delivering consistently for them.
Take a look at these numbers. Since his debut, he's been the second highest run getter at the number 5 mark. Joy Bhattacharjya was the first one who mentioned Charita Asalanka on our Asia Cup shows, and he's clearly growing in reputation.
No, absolutely growing in reputation. And look, getting runs at that number is not an easy task, because you're not getting too much time to bat, or very often if your team is doing well, you're batting with the tail. So high numbers at that level, who are the batsmen who get it? Either if your team is not great, like Sikandar Raza is surrounded, frankly, by a Zimbabwe team that's not the greatest team going around.
Yep.
Or you're like Nicholas Puran, that you're so explosive that the day you get going, you'll score runs from whatever position.
Yep.
And Nicholas Puran is a force of nature. But that is what Sri Lanka gives you. But I want to raise one more question. I was just looking, and about 2 years back, the same Sri Lanka team is in England. They breached the bubble. Kushal Mendis, I think, gets called. Gunatilaka gets called. There's disciplinary problems. They've left the hotel. They're doing stuff. That Sri Lankan team was in total disorder. 2 years back, you're looking at Sri Lankan cricket and you're wondering why, what's happening with them.
Yeah.
And we were talking about it. The reason we were talking about it is, one of the reasons when you look at Sri Lankan cricket is, when the IPL started, there were 6, 7, 8 Sri Lankan cricketers there.
Yeah.
And then it totally disappeared till you had a stage where there's not a single Sri Lankan cricketer. And now again, they've made that comeback, and you can make it again. The interest in the IPL teams, the interest in other leagues, they've just, from 2021 to now, it's been a fairy tale the way they've put themselves together as a side.
Sabara Vikrama and Sri Lanka will have the challenge of facing T20 superstar Rashid Khan, but this is the one-day international format. And Zach, it's a bit baffling that his numbers paint a very different story in these two formats. T20 is an absolute rock star. He turns it into a 16-over game. But come one-day cricket, he just looks a bit impatient when they sort of play him out, and he's not as effective in one-day internationals. In fact, we've done a breakdown there as well. In other ODIs, he averages 16, great strike rate as well. But in big bilateral tournaments against the top 6 teams, there is a bit of struggle. How do you read this? Is it just the quality of batting? How does one interpret these numbers?
So I think when you're looking at T20, you're just talking about 4 overs of Rashid, and 20 overs overall. It just as a batter, as a batting unit, you have to put the impetus on scoring runs at a higher rate. You're looking at run rate of 8, which is a norm, goes in T20 format, but that's not the case in ODIs. You have different phases, and there is a lot of time for you to deal with anyone. So you can actually discount 60 deliveries of Rashid and say that, okay, we're not going to give you wickets in those 10 overs. Even if we get 30 runs, it's still going to keep us well ahead, to encash on those 40 overs.
Yeah.
Which are remaining other than Rashid's over. So that is something which should be the plan, and that's what most of the guys are doing. And what happens in the whole thing, then as a bowler, you are thinking that now I have to do something. I have to be proactive. I have to take those chances. And in that, you can. There is a possibility go for runs as well.
Yes.
So it goes both ways that way. So the impatience can creep in because you know that the batters are going to be defensive. So I have to create something, and that's something which Rashid will have to figure out.
Can he be used better by Afghanistan? Because they don't have much death bowling, unfortunately. So
Yeah, but I'll tell you, just as taking the point here is, how many ODIs has Sunil Narine played? He's one of the great T20 bowlers of all time. It's just that difference of 4 and 10 overs and 50 overs and 20 overs allows the way the game is played, they have a problem. It's very difficult, and the way Rashid is bowling, they can just play Rashid out, which is what they do, and then he gets more desperate. But it is very difficult because what these people depend on is subtle variation changes. You're not turning the ball a whole lot and bowling a Jaffa. What you're doing is you're bowling just enough to beat the batter. If somebody is attacking you, just enough for him to make mistakes. That's the point. You're expecting the batter to make mistakes. If the batter has the luxury of not taking a chance against you, then both Sunil Narine and somebody like a Rashid are not as effective as they would now.
And also you can change this, okay, by adding 10 more overs of a quality bowler or 20 more overs of a quality bowler. There was a phase when Mujib and Nabi both were like really creating that kind of a scenario. And Rashid would not come to bowl till about 20-25 overs, and then he would bowl his 10 overs. I think it was Asia Cup only, which was played in UAE. So that kind of a bowling unit will create that scenario which will naturally benefit Rashid right now. Right now the scenario going, that there are other bowlers you can encash on, which is basically putting more pressure on Rashid at this stage. And that's where maybe someone like Noor Ahmed has a case to be featuring in this playing 11. That might just give that support which maybe Rashid is looking at this stage, or maybe Farooqi needs to step up and create that scenario with the new ball, which is going to put batters or oppositions in that zone where they have to take chances against Rashid. And once that happens, then you will see these numbers also change very quickly.
Wow, so many of these pieces of this puzzle are intricately interlinked, and we'll see what Afghanistan can do. We'll see if Rashid Khan can put on a show very different from the one in that last game. We've got a puzzle for you as well. Not me, Mr. Bhattacharjya. Sir, over to you.
Okay, a simple one. Whose first-class career was just a single match in the Moeen-ud-Daula Trophy in the 1960s, where he was dismissed by ML Jashima for just 1 run. So this person's first-class record, he's got just 1 run to his credit.
Is there a Teachers' Day connection here?
I have nothing. I'm not saying anything.
You have 7 hours to decode this one. Find out the answer and tweet to us. Make sure you tag Cricbuzz and Joy Bhattacharya with the answer of Joy Factor. And I promise you, if you are the lucky winner, you will get a thumbs up from Joy Bhattacharya at the end of it. Now, prediction before we say goodbye. Pata wicket, Sri Lanka batting first.
I think Afghanistan will be up for the fight. So I'm looking at 275. I think it will be a good game because all those net run rate equations will also come into play.
Okay, Joy.
Yeah, he said 275. I like this Bangladesh side, but I don't think they're that great a batting side. I'll go 250. I'm going.
Sri Lanka's batting first.
Sri Lankan batting first, 250.
250. I'll go 300. Let's go big. It's India's World Cup squad announcement day. Let's go big with everything. So 250, 275 and 300, regardless of whatever it is, we'll be back with Cricbuzz Live at the halfway mark. But the two of us will see you at the 15 over mark on Cricbuzz Combox. Make sure you join us then. Bye for now.